Brandon from Gearist.com. Welcome to this episode of the Gearist Podcast. Today, we're joined by Jacqueline Van Dine, the co-founder of Ahnu. If you've got any questions for Jacqueline or myself throughout this episode, please don't hesitate to leave a comment down in the comment section below asking that question, and we'll be sure to get you an answer as soon as we can. Be sure to swing on over to ahnu.com, that's ahnu.com. And also, don't forget to subscribe to both the Gearist YouTube channel, which you're watching right now by going to youtube.com/thegearist, or just clicking this little button right here, and also subscribe to the Gearist Podcast in iTunes. Simply go to the iTunes store, search for Gearist, and hit subscribe. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the show. Hey there, guys. This is Brandon from the Gearist Podcast, and today we're going to be talking to Jacqueline Van Dine, the co-founder of Ahnu. Now, if you're not familiar with Ahnu, first of all, stop this right now. Go to ahnu.com. Definitely give it a look around. Check it out. We're going to be talking with Jacqueline today about where Ahnu came from, the brand ethos, basically getting you into what that brand is about and what space they were trying to fill in their market. So without any further ado, Ms. Jacqueline Van Dine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, thanks. Nice sunny day here in California. Can't complain.
Yeah, well, no, that's because you guys have no rain. I mean, it can't help but be a nice sunny day.
Okay, you're right. I can complain. We need more rain.
It'd be weird if it were not overcast and not raining at all, but you do live in San Francisco, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys probably have fog in the bathrooms at certain times of year. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. And I guess kind of right off the bat, why don't you tell me and us, our listeners and viewers and everybody, just kind of a little bit about yourself before we get into Ahnu specifically, that kind of adds some context, because, I find that, like for me with establishing Gearist and everything like that, that was established out of my need, and I will say need and desire to talk about all the outdoor gear that kind of I take with me outside anyway. And so it seems to me that brands that are well established and brands that really have clear messaging aren't just brands that were invented out of thin air. They were put there to fulfill a need. And so I'm wondering where that came from in your own life as it kind of adds context to Ahnu.
Thanks. Yeah. I was born in San Francisco, so I'm a Bay Area gal at my core. And growing up in the Bay Area, I'm very lucky to have access to, Lake Tahoe 3 hours away. I have San Francisco in my backyard, half-hour drive. I'm in the city, hanging out with friends. 30 minutes north of where I live, I have Napa Valley. So it's a beautiful environment, and then 30 minutes west, I'm out at Stinson Beach, and Point Reyes is 20 minutes from my house. So, just a wonderful access to the outdoors all around me. I was fortunate to grow up as a child to go camping, with my family. Every summer, it was literally, 4 or 5 weeks out of the summer, we'd go camping, we'd go fishing, and, just, sleeping in dirt, sleeping on hard rocks, This is before all the fancy gear,
Yeah.
Hiking boots. I remember I would borrow a pair of hiking boots from my aunt, and they were big and they were clunky and they were brown. And so, as growing up in the Bay Area, my first job out of college, I took an internship at Birkenstock. So that ended up translating into a full-time position. They hired me when I graduated from college, and I was there for 14 years. So it allowed me to really understand the value of good footwear, and proper support underfoot. And then I transitioned into a brand named Keen, probably familiar to a lot of people out there. And really the perspective I brought to Keen was really a more lifestyle perspective, again, having a more urban background. So I brought a little bit of casual city flavor to the products. And in fact, today, 8 years later, since I've left the company, they're number one casual in both men's and women's products that I was able to create while I was there. So I feel very proud of that. But then, awesome. We transitioned to Ahnu, and we started Ahnu with three co-founders. One is my husband, Jim Van Dine. The other one is a woman named Jenny Fredericks. And the fourth one is a gentleman by the name of Scott McGuire. And, Keen was started in the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know how many people know that, but it was founded here. It was here for 3 years before the owner moved it to Oregon. Well, we had such incredible synergy. We love the Bay Area. We didn't want to move our families. So we decided to say, okay, good luck, I'm happy with your goals, but, we want to continue to work together and create this special brand that we had started. And so we put together a business plan to start Ahnu. And, when we looked at the outdoor space at that time, it was very much a sea of brown shoes, and kind of what you talked about in terms of reaching back to my roots. I remember my aunt's big brown heavy boots,
Yeah.
And so, we wanted to approach it from the opportunity that we saw was from a woman's perspective, to infuse color, to infuse a little bit of fashion into this very brown and heavy world called outdoor footwear. And so, I have a little boot here that I want to show you. This is, we brought to market in 2010, the first purple women's hiking boot.
Nice.
And everything in this product is considered, not only the color, but even the aesthetic. We didn't want something big, brown, clunky. We wanted to add nice, subtle detailing. This is a highly technical boot. It utilizes technology that we created called Menstum technology. And Menstum technology is all about centering the heel, so giving you the stability where you need it, and then having forefoot flexibility so that, athletic shoes. So when you're wearing packs, when you're on the trail, you've got enough weight, on you already. The last thing that we believe you need is more weight on your feet. And so we created this technology to be lightweight, heel stability, forefoot flexibility, and then of course, nice torsional rigidity through the midfoot. And so this is the Montera hiking boot. We launched it in fall 2010. It's still our number one hiker in our range today.
Awesome. And so the brand, so your garage story, if you will, the proverbial garage story, isn't really, because it sort of is and it isn't. You guys came at this from a long, what sounds like experience of footwear development, which is awesome. And it sounds also like kind of looking ahead, and we can get to it more in depth in a minute, but looking ahead into the yoga sport line that is coming very, very soon. Excuse me. It seems like, you're taking a lot of, especially the forefoot flexibility and everything like that in the boot launched in 2010, that biomechanics play a large role in this, as opposed to, again, it's all about the impetus for design. I think that a lot of times, people might build it and say, well, I'm going to build this shoe for this terrain. And that kind of negates some of the development around the body. And likewise for apparel. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen things built out of a certain fabric because it's a cool fabric to build out of and it looks good and all this, but then when you put it on, it doesn't really function the way that it should. So it's very interesting that while your garage story it's one of coming up literally through the ranks from me before graduating college up through Birkenstock and then into Keen, which, by the way, I love Keen. Their 886 is a trail runner that's like a super quick trail running shoe that is dope. But it's really great, I think, that you guys are taking that real biomechanical responsibility, I guess, to really look at the body first and then build down from there. Would that be accurate in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we look at the activity. So the Menstum technology is activity specific. So the way we build Menstum out on a hiker is different than the way we build it out on a trail runner, because it's all about your body's biomechanics, the weight that you have coming down on your foot. So when you're running, your body's coming down 2 to 3 times, your body's weight, is on impact on your heel strike. When you're walking or hiking, it's only 1 to 1.5 times your body weight. So we design the technology and the heel stability support, the struts, the second densities to form or to work, for that specific activity. And so, we very much approach all of the product. And as you're alluding to, which I'm excited to talk about as well, is the yoga sport. And what does Menstum technology look like in that venue?
Yeah. So one thing I would comment on, and if you're watching this, guys, on the live stream, or you're watching it on our YouTube channel, or if you just want to swing on over once again to ahnu.com, is that the colorways, you specifically mentioned you wanted the colors to not be brown. No offense to brown.
Yeah.
And no offense to brown. And I mean, there are brown shoes in your line, which by the way is smart because there are a lot of people that look for that. But it strikes me, because all the colors that you've chosen are bold colors, yet they're not so like, holy crap, look at that. It's not like this.
Yeah,
it's
we
not
didn't
like
get
this.
all color, yeah.
Right. It's not like this like vomit of fluorescence that just jumps out at you. And in the middle of the, in the middle of certain contexts, like, I mean, and I guess the only reference I have for any sort of woods near you is Marin. You're over there hiking and everything, and all of a sudden, oh, it's so pretty and green, and what is that? So when you're picking that colors, I mean, I guess this is kind of back to kind of you specifically. When you're involved in development, are you top to bottom development, or are you on the structural side more? Or, I mean, who's choosing those colors, and who's designing and things like that?
Yeah, great question. Probably much to the chagrin of my product team, I'm a little bit more involved. But no, product is my absolute passion. I did have the opportunity to live in San Francisco for 3 years, and actually owned a design store in a previous life
Nice.
for 3 years. And so really, getting out into museums, into industrial design, and just really looking at product that's truly considered, from an industrial design perspective. And so that's the approach that we take with our footwear. And so I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing team that has a similar mindset, that they get product the way I get product, and we are so passionate about it, So I'm very fortunate that I've been able to remove myself a little bit more than the past, but I would say the first, 7 years of the brand, 6.5 years of the brand, I was nuts and bolts, literally working with outsourced designers. We had a vision in our mind of what we're trying to create. I was certainly pushing the aesthetic value. Jim certainly pushing the technical value, and making sure that we really, blended to create the most beautiful product we could. And then I have an amazing colorist who sends me the palettes that are used by a lot of the bigger brands, a lot of the athletic brands. And so what I would do is I'd go in and pick and choose from her palette and try to create the right mix for the outdoor space, because it is easy to grab that bright chartreuse and say, hey, let's make a whole bright chartreuse shoe. Like, really? Who's going to wear that?
Right.
So, at the end of the day, it's literally down to, and I'll pick this boot up again, the color pop detail. We call it color pop, It's just doing it in just the right, with just the right intention, I guess, if you will. So very involved, but my current PLM has done such an amazing job that she's allowed me to start to step away, where I can now just come in and approve and tweak, and not be in the details as much as I used to be. So
that's awesome. So with regard to that, a little bit of back history, and please correct my dates because I'm sure I'll screw them up. But you guys were acquired, or at least brought into the Deckers family in 2009, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And what's amazing by that at that point is that. I mean, most brands, it's kind of this, there were extenuating circumstances at the time, basically, because capital kind of was like elusive at that point in time. But you guys being brought into an organization like Deckers, the size and mass of that, especially to which it's grown today, you're only 2 years old at the time, is kind of ridiculous. But I mean, it really speaks to the kind of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but the foresight of the brand, where they thought it could go, because they're not a brand. Deckers as an organization isn't somebody who's going to come in and be like, oh, we're just going to pick this up for the hell of it. I mean, that speaks really. Number one, talk to me about that for a second, but also what kind of resources did that then bring to you, or did you guys choose to remain very, very autonomous and not go with a lot of those resources?
Yeah, so it was a great point. We launched the brand. We did a soft launch in 2007, and so we had a nice test. We had incredible relationships that we had built through our partnership at Keen. So a lot of the retailers, they knew us, they trusted us. We were the group that helped take the brand from 0 to 100 million in 3 short years. It's I think that's a record in the footwear industry from ignition to takeoff. And so when we went off to start Ahnu, they trusted us and said, yeah, we believe in what you're doing. So they gave us that opportunity. Soft launch 2007. By 2008, we were all doors in REI. We were all doors in Nordstrom. We were in the best retailers across the country. It was phenomenal. And we were going into spring 2009. We were pre-booking our products. We had over $1 million worth of pre-orders. And that's when September 2008 came along, and the banks and investors, and, we knew we were basically needed to get our next round of funding, and it was all lined up, ready to go. And everyone put their hands in their pockets. And so at that time, we were very fortunate because of our history, and because of what we were doing, and what, we came onto the market full color. I mean, we had a bright red trail runner, and so so we hit the ground running with color as our specialty. And so when it came, into what our decision was going to be was, okay, we need to go into acquisition mode, or we're going to need to close our doors, quite frankly, because we had so many orders. Now, it was a good problem to have because we needed funding to fulfill the orders to get it out into the market. And so we were actually talking with 3 major organizations, and felt that at the end of the day, Jim Van Dine had worked at Deckers before, had great relationships with the organization. And as we went and interviewed them and they interviewed us, we just felt that our philosophies were very much in alignment. And so we said, okay, this is where the partnership needs to go. And so we needed, to your point, it wasn't easy. It wasn't, sure, just come on in, doors open. We had to pitch, we had to show our cash flow. We had to show our direction, our vision for the brand. And fortunately, it was approved by the executives and the board. And so as soon as we got acquired, it was I got to say, looking back, it was a hallelujah moment. Because, in starting the brand, there were 4 of us. And my job was not only to create the brand vision and direction, but it was also to create all the marketing. So the website, the catalogs, the trade shows. And then not only that, I was responsible for the product. Very quickly on, it became my responsibility. So I was traveling to Asia 5 to 6 times a year, creating product, working with designers. So it was almost one of those, like, I didn't know better. It was probably a good thing. Because I was really burning the candle at both ends just to really make this happen. And it was working. And so when Deckers came in and gave us the funding that we needed, gave us the support, especially on the manufacturing side, to have so many more resources just focused on Ahnu. It was a huge sigh of relief. And since then, the capabilities, because this is an organization that, is running at the time, I believe, probably an $800 million brand already. So they had already worked through the kinks and created an organization and a structure that would have taken us years and years and years to get to. So it was a huge win, and we're very fortunate. Yeah, feel very lucky to be part of this organization.
And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, and not that you would say differently if it wasn't like this, to be honest, but it sounds like your brand ethos, and I would judge this based on talking to you, but also based on, literature that's on your website and just kind of on the web about Ahnu in general, is that your brand ethos and who you are as an organization, as that group of 7 people that came over from Ahnu Independent to Ahnu under the umbrella of Deckers. It sounds like you guys didn't lose anything. Number one, you didn't lose anything in that 2 years from the soft launch until the acquisition, but also since then, it seems like you've kept that up. And I would think, and I'm curious as to your opinion, that part of that has to do with the rapid acquisition, because there are a lot of these companies that start out as 2, 3 people shops that are going out and building their brands from scratch. And what happens is over time, as and I don't mean to sound cliche, but as the corporate structure begins to take over and they realize, oh, well, we're not sitting in our garage making things anymore. It's kind of the Apple story to a degree, that all of a sudden the brand ethos starts to take a very distant back seat. But it doesn't sound like that happened with you guys.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what you had said earlier. I mean, at the end of the day for us, we were able to maintain our autonomy. And that was huge. And I'll say that's huge because living in the Bay Area, and I don't know, I assume you've been here, it's just a certain energy that happens by living here. And you're not really even conscious of it, but you are exposed, to so much that all of that goes into the brand. And so they allowed us to stay in the Bay Area. So we ended up with the best of both worlds. We've got the rich uncle, who's saying, all right, we're going to support you. We're going to take care of you. But go ahead and fulfill your dreams, and bring this brand to life. And they absolutely gave us that permission. And so here we are in, Richmond, California. And if anyone Googles Richmond, and it's not necessarily the most compelling place to live, but for us, we have people that live in San Francisco. We have people that live in Sonoma. We live in Marin, and so we wanted to create a location that was easy for everyone to get to. We could have easily been selfish and said, "Hey, let's open offices in our backyard," but we didn't do that. We're very people centric, and so we're in Richmond, California. It's easy. Everyone has more or less a half-hour commute, including us, the founders, and and we feel fortunate, and it's that autonomy that has allowed us to really blossom the brand in the way that we envision it.
So now let's talk about kind of the brand from a more functional standpoint now, or the product, I guess, from a more functional standpoint. We mentioned earlier I mentioned earlier, and you agreed that, kind of building from that biomechanical standpoint, let's look at how the body functions within the framework of this product. What do we want it to do and things like that. And moving into yoga sport and things like that, we're in a very interesting time, I think. And, in that we're coming out of, and I'll use running shoes as the kind of barometer. The running shoes went through the minimalist movement, and now people are saying, oh, well, the minimalist movement is gone. I tend to disagree with that. I just think it's been enveloped by the rest of design. I think it's now an integral part of it. We just don't distinguish it as such. But that's kind of microcosmic, if you will. I think that's the first time I've ever used that word. that's kind of a microcosm of people looking to the larger body functionality from a paleo diet. I mean, that's based around, let's look at what the body was meant to do back then. And this is how the body functions at its core, because in my opinion, what I see people doing, and again, we'll use running shoes as the kind of barometer, is they go, I need a running shoe, so I get this running shoe. Now, I need that running shoe to do this because I have plantar fasciitis, which is no shoe is going to fix plantar fasciitis. Then you're going to add this. Then you're going to add this. Then you're going to add this. But everybody forgets to go back to zero. But when they do, it seems people come around to this realization that there's this basically functional development of activity. It's not necessarily, and this, I guess, is part of where the genesis of CrossFit and that kind of parkour, and this, not to tie CrossFit to parkour, but that type of functional athleticism comes across versus going out and running, or going out and riding a bike, or going out and doing a very specific activity. And it seems to me that with some of the versatility, and I'm going to pull up in a different tab here just so I'm looking at them, or maybe not, with some of the new yoga sport products, which I have to say, it's really kind of very cool looking. There's this shoe. What is the one that is intriguing? The Yoga Flex and the Yoga Poise. Yeah. These are shoes that, these are not, you think like a yoga shoe and you got the word yoga in it. I would not think of that shoe in a billion years, because it's something that looks like you could, like you say here, long pose, holding long poses, and then going and doing actually something that's a little more cardio oriented, maybe a TRX workout or something like this. So functional athleticism, I guess I just talked a lot and said a whole bunch of things, but the inspiration of that coming from a functional athleticism aspect in terms of hiking and things like that, not to set design aside for a second, but let's do that. You came at very functionally, and then now you've arrived at kind of a different apex here, and it's a very interesting development. So can you talk to me a little bit about how functional athleticism has fit into the brand and how that's evolved you to launching this new line that's coming up?
Sure. So, it goes back a few years, as things take time to develop. When was it? I believe it was in 2011. I have an aunt who was practicing yoga back then, and she came to visit. She lives out of town, came to visit, and she said to me, do you have any shoes for yoga? And I just kind of, sat back and I thought, well, you don't use shoes in yoga, so what are you talking about? And I'm sure the rest of the footwear industry was thinking the same thing. You've seen yoga take off in apparel and gear, but the footwear space has been really, vacant. And so I brought home a little water sock that we created, that we sell at REI, and it's pretty minimal, and so I showed it to her, and she said, no, those are too bulky. And I thought, wow, this is bulky. It's pretty minimal, to the degree that even people were running in this water sock and giving us feedback, in that barefoot world. And we thought, well, these aren't designed for that, but okay, you're looking for something. At any rate, that really got me thinking. It made me realize, okay, no, she's right. If we're going to create product for this yoga lifestyle, yoga consumer, it needs to be thought from the ground up. And, I got to admit, I reached back into my, my Birkenstock, brain closet, if you will, to understand, ergonomics and how important that is underfoot. And so we created a little silhouette. I have it right here. It's called the Karma. And the Karma is engineered. It's, if you will, I call it a little Birkenstock light because it's not as big and technical and overbuilt. But we've slimmed it down. It's got nice arch support. It's got a heel cup. It's got a little toe ridge, but it's very feminine. And so what was happening in the yoga space is the apparel was coming out. It was beautiful. And what were women wearing? They were wearing flip-flops. They were wearing running shoes. They, might have been wearing boots. But they didn't have a shoe that complemented the yoga uniform. And so the Karma was the first shoe that we positioned as complementing the yoga uniform. So with that, we started talking to yoga teachers. We started going to the Yoga Journal conferences, and we started to sell this product. It was easy on off. You could kick it off, do your yoga, kick it back on, and have a nice, comfortable, walk around or walk home, etc.
And also, if I may, really, is that a cork footbed in it?
So yes, this is actually a new version that's coming out this next spring. So a little sneak peek for next spring. But yeah, it's cork wrapped. Yeah.
Yeah, and cork is super sustainable, and I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Recork, that actually takes wine corks and turns out other products.
Oh, wonderful.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
Continue. No, it's all good. So over the last 2.5 years, going into our third year, we've been attending these Yoga Journal conferences. We've been going to Wanderlust. We've started to build a yoga teacher ambassador program to get the shoes on their feet so that their, students can see what they're wearing. And, we have product designed for them. And it has absolutely worked. I mean, today we have over 2,700 yoga teacher ambassadors as part of our and we go to these events, and they're very familiar with who we are. They love Ahnu and what we stand for, because we do have a give back component to our brand. We try to be responsible. We're Conservation Alliance members of the Wilderness Land Trust organization, and so and we support breast cancer funds. So we try to have this whole embody what's important to us in our brand, and so this has been wonderful. Again, thinking about shoes for yoga. Okay. I then started thinking, what would a product look like to wear on a yoga mat, and is that taboo? And guess what? It was taboo. You don't wear shoes in yoga. And so
what are you doing?
Exactly. So I was fortunate to hire on a marketing manager who I worked with at Birkenstock, who became a very good friend of mine. She's very bright, and she was a yoga teacher. And when I brought her in, I said, I need you to be my bullshit detector in yoga. Because I'm not a hardcore yogi. I'm not going to pretend to be. That's not who I am. But I love the lifestyle, and I love the benefits of what yoga can bring. And so we started to develop this new product, which is about to hit the market literally in 4 weeks. It's about to hit retail. And we did a collaboration with a woman named Blake Brody. Now, Blake Brody already has Pilates footwear in the marketplace. So I called up Blake and I said, Blake, you have this minimal product for Pilates. We're in the yoga space. How do we create something together that will work for on the mat? And she said, I love that idea. I've been thinking about it because some studios, for hygienic reasons, are requiring footwear. And then we started talking about the aspects of travel when you can't take your mat. And so we created, and this isn't the product you're talking to, but I'm going to build to that because this is where it started, this is the In Studio. So it's a very soft, as you can see, it's kind of soft fabric. And underfoot is, that bright, shiny stuff is all grip material. So it actually grips your mat. Now, what I love about it is that when I wear it in yoga or when I do yoga, because I am such a novice, I don't know if you've ever tried yoga, Brandon, but, more often than not, I'm just, it's like, I'm just trying to balance, like, never mind the mindset and the breathing and all, like, I want to breathe and I want to do that, but honestly, I'm just trying to stay balanced, I'm just trying not to fall over on my mat and look like an idiot, right?
Right. The pros that are like super yoga people, no offense not to call them super yoga people, yogis genuinely look all relaxed and zen. I look all relaxed and zen because I don't have any oxygen and I'm about to pass out when I try yoga. There's a very different reason for my eyes rolling back in my head. Sorry.
No, exactly. Yeah. And so it's been really wonderful. And so as we have worked with our yoga teacher ambassadors to help test the product, to put it to use. And one of the wonderful benefits that has come out from their feedback, in fact, one of the gals just said to me recently, she said, what I love about this product? I don't like walking around my yoga studio barefoot. I don't really even like walking around teaching classes barefoot, to be honest, but I can't put shoes on. I'm not going to wear flip-flops, So this product absolutely meets the need for her. It's got a little cushioned arch cookie in there. So she's got a little underfoot comfort. The toes are all stretchy. So it works when she wants to demonstrate a pose. And so we're really excited about this product. It's about to hit the market. And so far, everyone that's had it has absolutely loved it. So this is called the In Studio is what we dubbed it.
And that's great that you went right. We've talked about this in the past, back to that tabby shoe. I mean, there's a reason that was so functional in Asia for so long and is still worn by a lot of people. I mean, you go to Japan. I mean, I don't know if you went to Japan in your travels, but that generally speaking, construction workers, those guys a lot of the time are still wearing like old school tabby shoes like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
No, exactly. And so, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love innovation. I'm constantly looking for, I don't want to say what's next, but what's the next opportunity? Where's the white space? And so looking at where yoga has started to trend, we're starting to see yoga show up in exercises, as you mentioned, even TRX. That's just using your body's biomechanics to create resistance, right? And that's yoga, but now you're adding a more cardio component to it. There are classes there's a class called Yoga Sculpt where they're actually infusing weights into yoga. Now, these are activities that, you could do barefoot, but it might be a little better if you had footwear. And so as we started digging in and doing the research on the footwear that was out there, it's pretty much, consumers weren't really sure what to wear for that either. Do I wear the Vibram 5 fingers? Do I wear running shoes? Do I go barefoot? What should I wear? And so as we designed, and I do have a sample here, as we designed this product, this is the Yoga Flex. we created these grooves in the forefoot to give extra flexibility. So when this thing flexes, those grooves actually function, so you have greater flexibility. You have a shortened lacing system. You have nothing across the top of your foot, so it's super lightweight, no opportunity for hot spots. You don't have anything digging into the top of your foot. So if you're in a plank, you're in a lunge, you're doing a push-up, you have a really comfortable forefoot. Now, when you look underfoot, the other thing you're doing is you're doing standing poses, or you need that stability in the heel. So here, Menstum technology looks like this. It's a nice ring around the heel. This is actually a soft center. Again, a little bit nod back to my Birkenstock days about centering your heel. It gives you nice alignment, through your body. And so you have a nice heel stability, forefoot flexibility, which is the Menstum in this product. And then on the inside is it's a wonderful ergonomic sock liner. I don't know if you can tell that, but it's 8 millimeters of memory foam, blown polyurethane, so it's going to retain. We've been seeding this product. We were just at a Fleet Feet conference last week talking to running stores, because we believe that our consumer is a runner, and she hikes, and she does yoga, and she's doing a lot of things. And so this product really allows our customers to talk to that consumer at a different level, for a different aspect of her life. And so the Yoga Flex meets the needs of what's happening in fitness today, and a lot of it is infusing some movements and some benefits from what yoga does in its traditional sense.
Yeah, I have to say, looking at that, I was looking at some pictures online of it a few days ago, and seeing that how the upper really sits it almost sits on top of the foam. It is a single density EVA that's in the sole?
It's actually a double density. Yeah, it's a double density, and it's an extra light EVA. And then here, where you're seeing all the red, that's the rubber for the traction. But the rest is EVA. Yeah.
The hole, I hate to call it a hole, but the gap in the heel, the unit, that little plunger there, is that going straight through to the strobel unit so that the heel really can sink down into there?
Yes. So,
that's awesome.
I hesitate to use the word barefoot, to your point. As we know, it's kind of, the term has taken a different tone, but it really does. You put these on and you feel like it feels incredible, but the flexibility, it just absolutely hugs your foot. And you can feel it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love the single piece upper like that, in that there's essentially no vamp at all. I mean, you don't have anything that's good, because that's where I feel like there's so much that's neglected. I don't want to get into super shoe stuff like that, because it'll just be like, oh, and what about the gillies? And people will just
let's keep going.
I'm done with this. So I can really see that. I mean, that, to be very honest, it looks like a running shoe. I mean, you've even built around, it looks like you've built around some extra reinforcement of the upper fabric, that as it transitions to the midsole there, for those high impact areas like that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And in fact, this type of product, it's not, for the hardcore CrossFit, that needs that, flat interior. We're not trying to be that. But if we take the concept of what CrossFit is, where you're doing a little bit of running, you're doing a little bit of weights, this shoe is basically your all-in-one. You absolutely can run in this shoe. In fact, Jim, he cracked me up, because when we were working on this product, and, by the way, he still participates in the product meetings. So does Jenny Frederick, still very much a part of this brand. And so it's the synergy of the three of us, that really makes the product, I think, what it is. But what he was saying to me, he said, oh my God, I ran in worse things than that, back in the day. You think about the waffle and, the stuff that was out in the market in the 70s, this is like, going to space, and running technology.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So where are you guys? And this might be asking. So this comes out in 2 weeks.
Okay, so this is launching literally. This starts to hit retail July 15th.
July 15th. Awesome.
Yeah,
so 2 weeks. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Can you believe it's July, by the way?
I know. That's why I said 4 weeks earlier. I'm like, wait, what day is it?
Wasn't it just January? Lord, we just took down our Christmas tree 2 weeks ago. So where do you see Ahnu moving? And maybe I'm sure that you guys have already you've sketched out, probably have prototypes in house of new things. So I'm not going to ask you to share things that you don't want to share, but what's next? Is it a new product? Is it evolution of existing product lines that you have?
Yeah, for us, really these two pillars, that are hiking, outdoor, and yoga. And by the way, it's the same ethos. It's the same consumer, it's just different aspects of their lives, both men and women. I talk a lot about the women's product just because, as we were talking about brown shoes earlier, I always joke when I come into product line review meetings and I said, and here's the new brown for men. Sorry, guys.
The brown.
We're thinking out of the box here. We're introducing a new gray.
That's awesome.
So I do reference the women's more. It is our, for us, it's really our point of difference. It's where we really, can elevate and really own it from a fresh perspective. Obviously, our men's business is important, but we feel like there's so much more ground to gain there. On the women's side, we're doing a phenomenal job at REI. We're doing a phenomenal job at Cabela's. And so what we're seeing on the women's side is we're going to now, what we did with our Montero hikers, we went from here very technical. We introduced a style and a collection called the Sugar Pine series. And the Sugar Pine series takes a more athletic approach. So this is even lighter weight than the Montero. And so it's a little bit more minimal in the forefoot, the way it's constructed. But we can have a lot of fun with colors, bright outsoles, things like that. So we have something that's a little bit fun, more traditional, a little bit slimmer, brighter. And then our next phase, which is we're basically outselling right now, is going even higher end. So we have a really beautiful product that there are consumers that are wearing heavier packs and they legitimately need a little bit more substance underfoot. And so again, we take our new Menstum technology and we've designed a new hiker that is more robust for those heavier, longer trails. And we're really excited. That'll be coming out in spring 16. What season am I on? So excited there. And on the men's, I'm excited. We brought in an amazing new gentleman who's our new senior PLM, comes with tremendous experience. And the men's product he has put on the table literally just in the last 8 weeks, it has blown me away. So I'm really excited about where our men's business is going to go. So we really want to really own that space, from the hike side. And then on the yoga side, again, continuing to make, to pioneer there. I mean, we were the first brand to introduce a shoe that was specific for yoga, that was specific for the yoga mat. And now what we're seeing as I look through trade publications, there's 4, 5, 6 other brands now starting to jump in, which, I say, great. If we can create a category together, why not? Right. We just need to stay innovative as a brand and stay ahead of the curve and continue to set the trends. And, that's my goal, so.
There is, this is kind of a little bit, I forget the name of the shoe that you just showed me, the one with the cork footbed there.
The Karma? Yeah.
Yes, that guy. Interestingly, there's a shoe that made an appearance at Ironman World Championships last October, or no, earlier this year, excuse me, it wasn't the World Championships. Daniela Reef is a professional triathlete. She's crazy fast and all this stuff. And on the bike, she wore a bike shoe that looked a lot like that. And all it was effectively it was all carbon fiber. That's the difference, because obviously you don't want flexibility in a bike shoe, but it's a carbon fiber shoe that looked like had the ballet slipper kind of strapping on top, and then it just had like a cleat plate for the cleats to attach. And that was the shoe. Super light, super fast. Anyway, that reminded me of that. So since you've got the yoga, I forget the name of it. Goodness gracious. I have it right here. The Yoga Flex and the Yoga Poise, those shoes. You've got this shoe that looks like a runner, but it's not specifically a runner, but you've also got this trail technology. It seems to me like those two are kind of, there's a trail runner in your future. I'm sure of it.
Look at that. Look at that. Mine's melding right here.
Yes, I'm telling you. I think it's Anyway, I'm biased because I live in Colorado and I adore the trails.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yes, please.
At the heart of what we're creating is really it's the consumer. It's what the consumer's doing. It's, where are they going? What are they doing? And so I think that is our point of difference. And that is why we create the product we create. I'm not creating a hiking shoe because I think we need a cool hiking shoe. There's a miss. I mean, the fact that a purple women's hiking boot can be the number one, colorway, on an REI wall. I mean, it was mind blowing. I mean, we started with a 2-door test and expanded to all doors within 6 months. And now we have an incredible business with them. They've been wonderful partners. And you know what? The consumer's speaking and they're saying, yes, we do want that. And we want more of that. And so as we look at our consumer's life, yes, she hikes. She bikes, who knows, right? Mm-hmm. She does yoga, she trail runs. So it's really looking at, and I say she again, that's kind of the center of our bullseye. But it's her and her husband. And we know that women, are really kind of controlling the purse strings a little bit more, than in the past. And in fact, you probably have your favorite pair of shoes. And if it wasn't for your wife, to introduce you, well, actually, you have a cool job. But, most guys, like if the wife didn't bring the new shoe to try or the new pair of jeans or the new, you guys are, you like what you like and you like to stick with it. And so, the female consumer, has a lot more influence even in the male purchases, I think, these days.
Well, remember, it's from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Can't believe I'm about to quote this movie, where she goes, "The man, he thinks he's the head of the household, and he is, but the woman is the neck, and she tells the head where to go."
That's awesome.
So trust me. Everybody's like, "Hey, can you go do this thing this weekend?" I'm like, "I have to check with the boss. I don't make those kinds of decisions." You may think so, but that construct has changed.
Yeah.
So with regard to listening to the consumer and that kind of thing, I would take this opportunity right here to plug you guys on social, basically Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you're on social. You guys are facebook.com/Ahnu Footwear, Twitter Ahnu Footwear, Instagram Ahnu Footwear, probably MySpace Ahnu Footwear. Who knows? Maybe Friendster.
Outer space Ahnu Footwear.
And it seems like you've got a very active community of people. It's not just you putting this content out there, but it's your community kind of talking back to you. And I always feel, because that's kind of my space prior to and involving Gearist was in social media. I worked for a footwear brand that we will leave out of the conversation for right now, but I was their director of social media. And it really is indicative of how engaged you are as a brand. And again, keeping that ethos fresh, and keeping your, not just messaging, because I feel like the term messaging feels too markety some of the time, but I feel like it's the real genuine belief of you as a company that you guys are the first people sitting there that haven't just drunk the Kool-Aid, but you've got the Kool-Aid on tap in your office because you believe so much in what you're doing. And I really feel that the type of imagery, the type of communications, it looks like from what I've done, and obviously I have limited ability to see what you guys see on your end, but it seems like you guys are just really engaging with your user, with the end user. These are people that want to support your product, not because it's a cool product, not necessarily because it's a cool looking product and it's fresh, but because of this kind of combination of those things. The fact that you are an organization who has amazing product. You are an organization who's putting out new and exciting things and who does have these fresh colors and things like that. But it's also something that's kind of intangible almost. And I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really, I think the word, I'm gonna try to feed you the word that I think that came to mind when you were talking about the messaging. It's really not the messaging, it's the conversation. Yep. And that is a conversation, and we love that it's a two-way conversation, and we really encourage, this whole yoga mindset, it's not a trend, it's a lifestyle. Okay. It's eating healthier. It's, getting outside when you can. And for some people, a certain part of the country who live in more urban areas, Central Park is going outdoors for people that live in Manhattan, and we want to tap into that. And we do, and so we get out there and we just talk to the communities and the ways that, they can resonate with us. And I think that's the benefit of being in San Francisco or in the San Francisco Bay Area, because we do tap into those city roots, that allow us and push us, to stay innovative, to stay fresh, to stay relevant,
right.
relevant conversations.
So a couple more things before I let you go. And by the way, I appreciate you taking so much time to spend with us today. It's awesome. And I love when I can have a conversation with somebody and there's zero semblance of trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to ask next. It's zero, none. It's awesome. I love it. High five, long distance high five.
Okay.
So what brands, whether this is a brand from a marketing messaging aspect, whether it's a design, whatever it is, what brands inspire you? They don't have to be footwear, apparel. They can be a car brand, whatever. What brands inspire you?
It's funny, these questions, they crack me up because they do become cliche, because the ones that inspire you are the ones that probably inspire, most people. I'm going to nod to, obviously Apple's the obvious giant, and it's because it's so considered, because everything they do is considered. And so everything that we put in our product is considered. If it's on the shoe, it has a reason. If it's not on the shoe, it's because it doesn't belong there, Right. So you'll see, and everybody has their own ethos for their own brands, but we'll see product out there that's like, why the hell is that on there? What is that doing? And so I take a lot of inspiration from that considered aspect of Apple, if you will. And, the big drivers for me aren't so much brands and products as they are design, integrity, and ethos. So I looked a lot to industrial design firms. There's a design firm that I worked with back in the day. It's Fuse Project. Yves Bahar is an amazing individual. He's built an incredible agency. I knew him back when, he literally had 5 people in his studio, and I think he's got a fairly robust organization. I haven't talked to him in quite a while. But I go and check out, his site and, see what's going on there. And so, inspiration, also traveling, going to Tokyo and, the different perspectives, of how people approach things. So I think it's more about that for me than it is about brands. I certainly give the shout out to BMW for coming out with iDrive that, is now everybody's got an iDrive, the little joystick at your hand, so they came out with that, 7 years ago, and now everyone's talking about. So the German engineering aspect has also been inspirational for me because, again, everything is there for a reason. So I do like to look at German products for that reason. So
sure. I would suggest to you, if you may already know about this, it's a website called notcot, NOTCOT.org. And it's effectively just like, it's all about design. It's amazing stuff. And as much as some of it is kind of reimagination of certain products or whatever, like a chair or whatever, from a very functional side, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be there, but it's just there because it's freaking cool. So,
well, that's fun too. I mean, we got to have our creative, cool products, just put it out there,
Right. Why not 3D print a dog bowl that has like 3 levels and is Wi-Fi connected? Why not?
Hey, it's there, right?
Exactly. So my final question that I want to ask you, and again, kind of a sort of cliche question, but not really, because I think that you guys, your span, your reach in terms of activity is pretty broad, especially with once the yoga sport, the more running shoe oriented or looking things are out there. If you've got 2 hours and you're going to go and do some sort of activity or workout or whatever, what are you doing?
So I love that you're asking this question because, this is what I tell people is, especially as we've been working on the yoga sport collection specifically, is that, I'm a working mom, okay? And, which makes me a taxi driver, right? A chef, a maid.
So you're sleeping in those 2 hours is what you're saying.
And at the end of the day, I'm a teacher, so at the end of the day, I've got 45 minutes or an hour to do some type of physical activity. So I grew up in team sports. So back in the day, I was an athlete. I played basketball, softball, tennis, a little bit of golf. And at the end of my day, I've got 45 minutes. So what am I going to do? Am I going to do yoga? Am I going to, go do a cardio workout? And I feel like there's something kind of missing out there. And so while we're creating this yoga sport product, the other light bulb went off wait, why don't we create a yoga sport workout? And a yoga sport workout is the blending of yoga and cardio. And so over the last 6 months, 3 to 6 months, we've been working on getting the yoga sport workout certified, and it is now certified through ACE. It's now certified through NASM. So fitness instructors can actually go and take a yoga sport workout class and get fitness credits so they can maintain their training license. And so, if I have 2 hours in the day, I guess my first hour would be to go up to the Oakland Hills on my favorite trail that has an amazing view of the San Francisco skyline, and it's just, you're outdoors, but it's just amazing. My favorite trail ever. I don't get out there. I moved to the other side of the bay, so I don't get out there as often as I used to. So I would definitely do that my first hour, and then I'd probably come home and do a yoga sport workout, and then probably jump in the pool after that.
There you go. I like it. That's awesome. Well, Jacqueline, thank you so much for your time today. And, I think that Ahnu is just, again, you guys have been around since 2007, so not even 10 years yet. You've already just, the number of markets that you're in, especially if only through REI, is crazy impressive. And I really appreciate, me personally, and obviously I can't speak for everyone, but I really appreciate the fact that you're holding on to that, to who you are. Because I feel like so much of that gets lost. Some of it gets tied up in marketing, but I really feel like that is so key. And I feel like your products are developing along the lines of, again, focusing on, like you said, focusing on the consumer. So I appreciate that. And I think it just bodes very, very well for you guys as a brand. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Brandon. Thanks for allowing me to take the time here today. It was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed talking.
Anytime. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Gearist Podcast today. If you'd like to subscribe to us on iTunes, please just go into the iTunes store and type Gearist. Let's say click and type all at once. Type Gearist, it'll come up. Check that out. You can also do so by going over to the Gearist.com website and check it out. If you'd like to follow Ahnu on all the websites we mentioned earlier, again, go to ahnu.com, ahnu.com, or facebook.com, twitter.com, and instagram.com/Ahnu Footwear, and give them a shout out. If you have a pair of Ahnu shoes, definitely take a picture or tweet them on Instagram or what have you. Show them some love. Some great products coming out of there. And thank you guys so much for joining us once again for this episode, and we will talk to you next time.